So if you are given a piece of paper like this and I ask you to sketch it, first thing you'll have to do is find the vertex. That's the most important thing. What is the vertex in this one right here? It's kind of one of the tricky ones. You don't see a parentheses, so that means there's no horizontal shift. So your vertex is 0, 5, and you go to 0, 5, and then does it open up or down? And that's all you need to do for that, okay? So what about this one right here? What's your vertex? 2, 0. Does it open up or down? And, you know, there's a half there. It gets a little wider. If you want to do that, great. Again, if you just get the vertex in the up or down, I'm good with that.
On the green sheet, how do you know if it's compressed or...
Because the number, I'm going to give you guys a copy of this too. This is really fantastic. This is a verbal, like with words version of the picture that you have for this thing. So, for example, let's look here. Stretch or compression is controlled by the A. If the value of A is greater than 1, then it's getting bigger, but it narrows. So it does the opposite. If A equals 1, there is no change. It's the same as just the regular parent function. And if A is between 0 and 1, notice I didn't put less than 1, because less than 1 means negative numbers. And negative 8 gets way skinnier, right? So if it's between 0 and 1, that's what makes it widen. The reflection here is controlled by that. It flips or reflects. The horizontal translation is the H. If H is positive, meaning if you're looking at it as a plus positive there, it shifts to the left. H is negative to the right. And then your vertical translation is your K. If that's positive, it goes up. Negative, it goes down. And I don't make any colored copies ever all year long, but I made 80 colored copies of these. So you guys will each get one of these in color if you want it. Yeah?
How do you tell if it opens up and down?
The reflection is based on whether there's a negative. If there is a negative anywhere in front of that X or that parenthesis, it's going to reflect. Anywhere. Okay? So, for example, this one will reflect. It'll go open downward. This one will open downward. This one will. This one won't. And so on. Okay? All right. So you're good with that. Now, how about this side? What's missing? The actual equations. And this is a little trickier. So I want you to kind of watch this here. First, you need the what? The vertex, right? Well, you're looking at it. Let's just do this one right here. So the vertex here is what? -3, -2. Once you have the vertex, can you put it in vertex form? Can you make these look like these? It's easy to pull them out. We haven't talked about putting them back in yet, though. So what do you think that equation is? It's going to be your y equals. It's going to be your x squared. So let's start with that. It shifted 3 to the left. So my horizontal, which is the h that goes there, that should be what? Good. A +3. And what should go here? -2. So the one in the parentheses is the opposite of what you're looking at. Got it? Think you can do that? Okay. I have one more thing to show you, and then I'm going to pass out your papers, and then you have all hour tomorrow. So the next thing is this. I want you to look at this paper. Vertex form, vertex form, vertex form. Oh, but then something happens in 32 through 40. Looks like something that we've seen before. And what does it say to use? Factoring. So all those of you who retook that factoring test and did better, that's great. If you retook it and still didn't understand it, you can't stop working on it because you still need it. So let's do number 32 real quick. Let's take y equals. This is the last thing I'm going to show you, so I need you to kind of sit tight. All right? And this is something you may want to write in your notes. So I'm going to use factoring to find the zeros. Well, we've done that before, right? So if I factor this, I know what you're thinking. It looks like it might be a perfect square trinomial, except that's not a plus, right? So this is going to be x times x. Some of you who are still confused, that's a product, and it's negative. The only way to get a negative product is if you multiply a positive times a negative. Good. Now, I'm not going to put 3 and 3 because that would mean that that wouldn't be there. So the only other factors of 9 are 9 and 1, which works out because when I subtract 9 and 1, I get 8. Now, where do I put which one? I want the sum positive, so I'm going to put the 9 here and the 1 there. Good so far? I just factored. Find the zeros. This 0 is negative 9. This 0 is positive 1. I would like to not tell you what to do next. I would like to, because we're basically trying to find the vertex. I'm going to see if you can kind of figure it out. So watch what I do. Right now, I'm just going to put my zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, that's all I know right now. I don't know anything about where that vertex is. I need that vertex. I need 3 points to make this parabola, because otherwise it's kind of like, does it go up this far? Is it really, really wide and just goes like this? How can I find my vertex? I know how I can find a part of my vertex. What, didn't I tell you that parabolas are symmetrical shapes? So what can I use? The axis of symmetry, right? Technically, remember, if I fold this dot should land on that dot. So if I go me halfway, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. What are we at right here? Does that look right? Isn't this my axis of symmetry? Okay. So in other words, I know part of my value. I know the x. It's what? -1, -2, -3, -4. So I found halfway between the zeros. Watch. I know what you're thinking. Well, what if you don't have a piece of graph paper and you can't look? Here's a really, really easy way to find halfway between the zeros. Halfway, I want you to write this on your paper, between the zeros. What's hallway? Halfway, thank you. Between the zeros means take your zeros and add them together and find half of that. Find halfway. So -9 plus 1 is -8. And -8 divided by 2 is -4. Didn't you tell me that's where the halfway mark was? So halfway between the zeros gives me my x. I know how many I move left to right because of the symmetrical nature of the shape. The only thing I need now is, where do I go on this axis of symmetry? Is it here? Is it down here? And I'm not going to tell you. You're going to tell me. What do you do if you have two variables and I give you the value for one of them? What is the basis of algebra? I'm looking for my y. I have an equation with a y and an x. I know the value of x, so I should what, Nick? Substitute x in where x is. I know what x is, so I go back to my original equation. Look. I'm going to put it here, but guess what? I'm also going to put it there. So are you ready? I'm going to take y equals x squared plus 8x minus 9. And my my x is -4. Right? So let's do this. Well, since it's squared, it doesn't matter if that's positive or negative. This is always going to be positive. Positive 8 times -4, look guys, is -32. Be careful with that. Now, as long as you don't mess up on your 6th grade adding integers, you'll be just fine. 16 minus 32 is -16, plus -9 is -25, isn't it? So, don't forget. That's what y is. Y equals. So when x is -4, y is negative 25. Let's put this all together now. I know that it's negative 4, and now I know I got to go all the way down to negative 25 or wherever this is. I don't even think it goes that far, but that's my vertex that I needed to then draw my shape. Got it? Okay, so look right here. Find the zeros. So you know what we're going to do? I factored. I found that the zeros were x equals negative 9 and x equals 1. Then use those zeros to find the vertex. That's where you add the zeros. This is what you're going to look in your notes and divide it by 2. That's what got me my negative 4, negative 25. We are not done because what does step 3 say? Use the vertex to now complete the process and put it in vertex form, which means y is equal to x. If that's negative, what should I put here? Plus 4 squared minus 25. Whew. It's a lot. And I wish I would have had a second day to do this with you, but I wanted to get it all to you so you had all hour tomorrow to work. Let's do one more. Ready? Let's see if you can kind of, because you're going to have to do this on your own. Y equals x squared minus 5x plus 6. Take me through a whole process. Find the zeros, find the vertex, put it in vertex form. Okay? I don't have any, sorry. So, factor that first. Try to see how you would factor that. So this first line isn't for the factoring. It's for after you factor and find the zeros. So what are you saying to yourself? You're looking at that 6. You're seeing that it's positive. The only way to get a positive product is if both signs are the same, right? They're both negatives. And what? Don't tell me that that's 3 and 3, because you don't add them. So the only thing that's going to work here is 3 and 2, right? So this line is for the zeros. What's my 0 here? Do not put that as an ordered pair, though. Don't put parentheses around it, because that means then that it's a point. So you might want to do this. X equals 3, x equals 2. Well, vertex, this is kind of tricky. Because if this is 2 and this is 3, and these are my zeros, the vertex is halfway between them, right? So it's halfway between 2 and 3. 2.5. If you don't know that, then you add your zeros together and you divide by 2, which is 5 divided by 2, which is 2.5. Okay, here's the only other part. What do I do to find the y? I know it's here. I just don't know what. I plug it back in. This gets a little messy, but you get to use a calculator. So you have y equals 2.5 squared minus 5 times 2.5 plus 6. 25 times 25 is 625. Move that decimal over twice and you get that. 5 piles of 250 gives me 1250. And add 6 to it. And then again, you just use your calculator for this. This gives you, what does this give you? Oh, what do we have? Negative. So 625 minus the 1250, that gives you a negative 625 plus 6, which gives you a negative 0.25. All that, I know it wasn't pretty, but that's your y equals, isn't it? Okay. Now that you have that, can you put that back into vertex form for me right now? Hello? Yep, no problem. Bye-bye. Mohammed, they're going to need you in the office. let me just get you this real quick. Y equals x minus 2.5 squared minus 0.25. That was not fun that it was all the same number.